welcome to the deep dive. So, for those of you following along, you've reached this incredible moment. You've been inside the innermost sanctuary. You have had that profound vision, the darshan of Lord Padmanabha.
Which is, it's an overwhelming experience, but the thing is, the ritual isn't over. It's not like you see the Lord and then just, head for the exit.
Right. And that's what I think is so fascinating about the sources we're looking at.
Yeah.
They are so explicit about this, the journey out, this path of return. It's just as critical as the journey in.
It's arguably even more structured philosophically. It's the completion. It's designed, really, to help you internalize the meaning of what you've just seen.
Exactly. So we're not just, looking at a map of the temple exit. This is a guide for bringing that intense, divine stillness back with you into the world of action.
And that's our mission today. We're going to follow that path. This deep dive, it's really about three things. First, that essential required stop at the Thiruvambadi shrine. Then the psychological process of walking back through those ancient halls. And finally, we'll try to distill that core lesson, the final blessing that you're meant to carry with you.
And we're working from texts that lay all of this out in incredible detail. So,
yeah.
Okay, let's trace this final circuit.
Let's do it.
So let's start right there. You've just exited the Trikovil, the main sanctuary. Where does the path take you?
Immediately, and this is not optional, the path is designed to lead you straight to the Thiruvambadi shrine. It's a key part of completing that inner circle pradakshina.
Right, so it's a required step.
A fundamental pivot point. You go directly from the form of ultimate rest, creation contained in an eternal sleep, to a form that is all about dynamic, immediate action. This shrine is dedicated to Lord Krishna.
But not just any form of Krishna. The sources are very specific here. And I think this is so important for the transition, isn't it?
Oh, it's everything. It's precisely the point. This isn't Krishna as a child or as a lover. This is Lord Krishna as Parthasarathi.
The divine charioteer.
The divine charioteer. Just think about that image. He is the one guiding Arjuna, the hesitant warrior, into righteous action on the battlefield. He's wisdom applied in real time, in a crisis.
That is just... It's such a powerful juxtaposition. You have literally just seen the Lord of the entire cosmos resting on the serpent Ananta, the image of ultimate stillness.
The ground of all being.
And now you have to immediately turn and greet the Lord, whose entire being in this form is about decisive, guided action.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because the architecture itself reinforces that philosophical point. The Thiruvambadi shrine, even though it's inside the main temple complex, it has this remarkable independent status. It is not a sub-shrine.
Okay, that strikes me as a little, counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
If the whole point of the main temple is this grand cosmic unity, why would the tradition insist that this companion deity stands so separately? What's the proof of that independence?
That's a great question. And the answer is written in the language of temple architecture. Our sources give us two completely unambiguous signs. First, the shrine has its own Dwaja Stambham.
Its own flag mast.
Its own individual flag mast. For anyone unfamiliar, a separate flag mast is it's a declaration of sovereignty. It means it's a self-contained liturgical unit. It's not borrowing its status from the main deity.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
A flag is a very public, very visible statement.
Yeah.
What's the second piece of evidence? Maybe something a bit more subtle.
The second sign is the presence of its own separate Bali stones.
Okay.
These are the specific stones in the temple corridors where ritual offerings are placed for all the attendant deities and forces of the complex. When a shrine has its own distinct set of Bali stones, it signifies that it is fully responsible for its own divine court. It receives offerings as a co-equal.
So it's not just a chapel or a subsidiary.
Not at all. It's a fully sovereign entity that just happens to be housed within the larger structure. The architects made sure the message was unmistakable. This is not an afterthought. This is a co-equal, necessary part of the complete experience.
Which means if you bypass it, your pilgrimage is actually fundamentally incomplete.
Absolutely. And the ritual action you perform there reflects that. You're instructed to offer prayers to Parthasarathi, to that embodiment of divine wisdom in action. You're seeking grace for the dynamic life you're about to step back into.
So having just witnessed stillness, the pilgrim has to look to the guide who helps them apply wisdom to their own battlefield, their own crisis of action.
Yes. It's the exact moment you, the devotee, shift from just seeing the divine to actively asking how to live the divine life.
It's described as a vital part of the visit then, seeking the grace of the Lord's closest companion for that very reason.
Precisely. The ultimate truth is the rest, the Anantashayanam. But our immediate reality is action, guided by wisdom, by Krishna. You're meant to hold both of those truths at the same time.
That dual requirement,
Mm.
stillness, then action.
Wow.
That's really the engine of this whole thing. So, okay, you've completed this essential inner circuit. Now the journey starts to turn outward, physically.
Yes. With the prayers at Thiruvambadi, the inner pradakshina is officially complete. And now the mental and physical transition begins. And this is, well, it's a vulnerable part of the process, really, integrating what you've just experienced.
And the path itself leads you away from that innermost sanctuary back toward the main east gate, which means you have to walk past all those huge grand halls you first saw when you came in. The architecture really becomes the guide here, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. You're walking back through those vast mandapams, the big, open, pillared halls. The structure's designed to make you move slowly. You have to. You're going from that intensely compressed, personal, dark space of the Sree
Well,
Kovala.
you only see the reclining Lord.
Right, and you're moving back into this expectorant, almost dizzying volume of carved stone and sculpture and light.
I can just imagine how the visual cues would force you to slow down and reflect. You're walking past, what, thousands of carved pillars? Maybe you can hear the faint echo of chants from earlier. It forces a deceleration.
It's the decompression chamber for the soul. That's a good way to think of it. And the sources are clear on the mental instructions here. You're meant to dwell on the sights, the sounds, the architecture, but most critically, on the memory of the darshan itself.
So you're replaying it in your mind.
You're allowing those intense spiritual impressions to settle, to integrate into your deeper consciousness before you re-engage with the noise and the rush of the outside world.
So the purpose of this long walk isn't just to get from point A to point B. It's a dedicated space for memory consolidation, turning a fleeting vision into a permanent insight.
That's it. It's the moment where belief starts to become knowledge. If you just rush through those halls, the experience can just evaporate. The slower you move, the deeper that vision of cosmic stillness sinks in.
It's an exercise in contemplative movement.
Exactly. You're connecting the dots between the stillness you witnessed and the actionable wisdom you just prayed for from Parthasarathi.
So as we get closer to the East Gate, we have to transition back to the practicalities, the external world. After all this cosmic dance between action and rest, there's the very real task of picking up your shoes.
And that transition from contemplating all of creation resting in eternal sleep to, worrying about where you left your smartphone.
Yeah.
It can be famously jarring. It's important to frame it correctly.
The sources, funny enough, treat this practical step with a lot of seriousness. It's like the final earthly ritual.
It is. The path guides you back to the facility just outside the East Gate. And the reminder is crucial. Collect your personal belongings, specifically your footwear and, most importantly, your personal electronics from the cloakroom.
We often forget how significant that act is of putting away our devices to go inside.
And so the act of collecting them is just as significant. For the pilgrim, picking up their phone is the formal acceptance of re-entry into the digital, fast-paced, action-oriented world.
That's a wonderful way to see it. The collection of the phone is the symbolic end of the detachment you needed for the inner journey. The ritual is complete. The circle is closed. Let's try to synthesize the big picture here.
So what does it all mean? The whole experience, and especially this path of return we've just walked, is really a lesson in spiritual balance. Our sources summarize it as something more than just seeing a magnificent building. It's about participating in an ancient living tradition.
A tradition that demands you hold this duality.
Yes. And the core philosophical idea, the final blessing you're meant to carry with you, it's all encapsulated in that silent power of the Ananta Shayanam.
The eternal rest on the serpent and end.
Right, but we need to unpack that. This isn't sleep as we know it, where consciousness just fades out. This is a foundational, eternal rest upon which all movement, all of creation is sustained. It's the deep understanding that all of creation rests within the Lord's eternal sleep.
So it's the definition of profound stillness, but it's a stillness that contains all the dynamic potential for everything that exists.
Exactly. Creation at rest and yet eternally sustained. You leave with this deep knowledge that underneath all the chaos and the action of your own life, there is this fundamental, boundless state of peace, of order.
You've glimpsed the very foundation of reality. But, and this is the key, the ritual demanded that you immediately go seek guidance from the Lord of Action, from Parthasarathi, right after that.
The ultimate truth is stillness. But the mandatory next step is wise action.
Which brings us to a final compelling question, something for you, the listener, to carry forward long after you've collected your electronics.
Given the temple's intense emphasis, both architecturally and philosophically, on Lok Krishna as the embodiment of wisdom and action immediately after you see the vision of eternal rest, how do you reconcile the dynamic, intentional movement required in your own life with that profound stillness that contained completeness of cosmic sleep? Where do you find your stillness in the middle of your action? And how do you find your direction within that profound state of rest?
That's the final lesson this path of return asks you to internalize.
That's the deep dive.
Until next time, keep diving deep.